week before the Oklahoma-Nebraska game, which I officiated, Oklahoma played at Kansas. And the fans in the stands at Kansas had oranges.
You're watching the Spotlight Network, starring Hollywood's newsman, Logan Crawford.
They now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators.
International were abducted.
This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're taking a look at a terrific book. It is called Between the Stripes, and it is written by an outstanding author. His name is Dr. John C. Laurie. His groundbreaking book is on sports officiating and leadership philosophy. Although it was written for those who referee, umpire, and judge sporting events, this guide is also designed to encourage thinking outside the box for leaders in business and other professions. The doctor challenges you to stop looking at the covers and read between the lines, to develop, rethink, and personalize your own successful leadership style. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Inks and Bindings for helping us put him on TV today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Doctor, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start out with an intro that's not an intro, with a little humor. This book was published 12 years ago, and this is the original book. Mm-hmm. It's no longer available. You can buy it still as a used book from Amazon or Barnes & Noble for $35 to $50. Mm-hmm. But this is my used car deal here. For $18, a paperback, not a hardback, a slick book. You get a book that I think you'll enjoy. It is refreshing to read. I guarantee anybody who reads it, they'll be a better official afterwards. And also, I say this as a caution. It's fine to buy the book, and if you don't read it, if you give it to someone else, you better be careful, because if someone that has more potential than you, they're going to zip right by you, because this book will make you a better official.
Absolutely. And apparently, being a sports official is a perfect parallel for teaching leadership, philosophy, and business, and other professions as well. Talk to us about how they cross paths and the lessons learned.
Well, between officiating and life?
And life, yes.
Oh, actually, there's a high correlation. Good people make good officials, and honest people make even better officials. Mm-hmm. But my background was, I'm a former high school principal. Mm-hmm. And those values are the same that you would have in officiating. In fact, there's a lot of cross parallels here between education and athletics, and a lot of really good things happen from that. And I always go back, because you asked that question, I think of the time when I was a junior high school coach and a teacher. And I found that's where I really got started in motivation with quotations, a lot of reading of books and so on. But I found kids were very stimulated by the motivation you can get from quotations. And I still remember in that Jardine Junior High School gymnasium where I taught, we had a 6-by-8-foot sign put up. That's large for a gymnasium. And it's a quotation from Herbert Hoover. And it says, quote, "The rigid and voluntary rules of right and wrong as applied in American sports are second only to religion to strengthening our country." And that sort of summarizes, I think, everything of a balance between my background in education and officiating.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very true. I never became much of a sports fan until later in life. I just had no interest in it when I was younger. 6'6", can barely throw a basketball anywhere near the hoop. So I had zero interest in it. But as I watch it now, there are so many life lessons. I mean, you and I were talking about the Chiefs-Jaguars game last night, and just look at Trevor Lawrence. He was a perfect example of what perseverance is all about, and determination and grit, and refusing to say no, right? Isn't that, well, I thought there were a lot of lessons to learn from him last night.
A lot of lessons last night, a few tough ones for Kansas City fans, but
Mhm.
the best team won.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Now you're surrounded by pictures there. Tell us a little bit about some of those pictures that you have in the foreground.
Actually, these two men endorsed the book 12 years ago. Coach Switzer at Nebraska and Coach Osborne at Nebraska and Coach Switzer at Oklahoma. And I have some stories about them at some point I'd like to share with you if you like. But both good men, but they're examples of the endorsements. I think I have 12 in this book from people, coaches and other officials that read this book and really enjoyed it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, now's a good time. Why don't you share some of those stories you have about those two men?
Okay, well, I can start with this fellow over here,
Yeah.
Coach Switzer. Two quick stories. I want to be careful how I do these because I don't want to. I want to go quickly on stories because I want to talk about the book quite a bit.
Sure.
When I call Oranges and Nebraska, the week before the Oklahoma Nebraska game, which I officiated, Oklahoma played at Kansas. And the fans in the stands at Kansas had oranges, they'd say, because everyone was excited about the Orange Bowl. That's in the Big 8 days. And they saved these oranges throughout the entire game to throw when they scored a touchdown. And they didn't score. They never scored. So in the fourth quarter, you can imagine what might happen with probably a lot of excessive alcohol in the stands. They started throwing these oranges at the bench. And enough were thrown that the official penalized the home crowd, Kansas. So that brings me now to my game next week. And a letter came out from the Big 8 conference. Attention coaches, officials, there will be no penalty for throwing on the field. That could get out of hand and we could have a riot on the field. No penalties. So I go to see Coach Switzer and he is so mad. I said, Coach, did you read the message from the conference? Yes, I did. I don't like it. We're not going to play. That's too dangerous. We're not going to have that again. So I read the policy to him and he said, I understand what you're saying, but we don't want to go out there today. But yeah, they will. So when I go to see Coach Switzer, the first thing he said to me, did you read the letter? No penalties today, right? On throwing oranges. Because he thought it was rather a funny thing. Anyway, first quarter, they go down and Nebraska takes the ball and drives right down the field and scores a touchdown. And the oranges come out. And I mean, I've never seen so many oranges. I've been to Nebraska quite a bit for games. But it's Orange Bowl time. There were so many oranges on the field that you could see the pulp all over on the ground. And a lot of us, we wore white pants, the officials do, we had pulp all over us. Stopped the game, sent them to the sidelines. Coach Osborne said, may I have your microphone to make an announcement? Sure. I gave him the microphone. And everything got really quiet. And I want to read this exactly what he said. Husker fans are the greatest fans in the history of college football. I am directing the referee to penalize us if you continue throwing oranges. Crowd went wild. And all of a sudden it got quiet. He turned to me and said, is that mic off? I said, yes, sir, it is. Don't you dare penalize us today. And no more oranges.
Yeah.
And so after the game, in which the home team won, the crowd thought the coach was a great sport and also a great leader. And that was that story. Now, the other one was more interesting with him. First of all, both these men are great men, and I respect them professionally.
Yeah.
The first game of the Big 12 championship, now this is now the 8 forming with the 12. It's a game between Texas and Nebraska. And it's the first time I've ever seen Coach Osborne. Is usually very laid back, much more than Coach Switzer. John, we don't even want to play this game. And he was upset. And I said, what's the problem, Coach? He said, we should be able to go to the national championship without playing this game. We shouldn't have, a coach that's been decided, we're going to play it. And so he was uncharacteristically said to me, the only way, John, that we can lose this game today, if you allow those ends to hold our defensive ends who can rush the passer. If you allow that, we lose the game. Well, I said, Coach, we're going to watch holding on both teams, but thank you.
Yeah.
So the game started, and right away, Texas drove down the field and scored a touchdown. There's time, 3 minutes between them. So I crew my group together. I said, anybody see anything going on here? No. Next drive down the field, Nebraska scores a field goal. It's 10 up now, 10-0. Nothing happening at all. I get my crew together. I said, because all the way down the field, there were plays besides the kick for the field goal. Any holding? No. In fact, everybody's being double teamed, they said. So I went over, and Coach Switzer still had his headset on. He saw me coming over. He took it off. I said, Coach, I've talked to our crew twice on this, and you're getting beat. You're just getting beat today. You need to change what your plans are, because we're doing our job. And that's what he was. He put his headset on, went right back, and had a good game. Let's go over here. I know we're doing this a little bit backwards. I'm hoping to talk to you about how to use and why I wrote the book, which is very important. But Switzer, let's take care of Coach Switzer. In the 80s, Brian Bosworth was a big player, and in fact, we'd had some conferences through the Big 8 conference about whether or not he was playing fairly or not. He was a very aggressive player. Well, before this game, and it's the first time it's ever happened to me. It's the only time it happened. The supervisor of officials called me and said, this was at the halftime of the game, John, I want you to go tell Coach Switzer that we got to get those shoes off of Brian Bosworth. I said, what's the deal? I didn't even notice it during the game. I saw some writing or something. I didn't understand it. Anyway, I said, Rozelle sucks. He was the supervisor of the NFL.
Yeah.
So I understand that. So I go it's halftime now at OU. It's hot, and everybody's taking their shirts off. So I don't know where 44 is. They're putting on dry shirts. So I go to Coach Switzer. I said, Coach, we have a problem with your 44. He'll have to change his shoes. He can't go out and play the second half. He said, what's the problem? I said, well, and I explained it to him. He said, you go tell him. So I am in that hot locker room. Nobody has their jersey on. So I see this guy with blonde hair and a crazy cut. And it is. And he sees me coming. And he says, how you doing? How are you? Like that, I said, I'm great. He said, hey, you made news, Brian. What do you mean? Well, the NFL and the Big 8 have all noticed that those shoes you're wearing aren't appropriate for football. And you take them off to play. He said, you're kidding me. And then he said, quote, no shit, end quote, like that. But he said, how did that happen? I said, no play. He said, okay, I'll take care of it. I said, no. You don't understand. Those shoes got to come off now, because if I see you outside the locker room with them on, you can't even play the second half. Okay, I got it. So he took them off right there. And that was that situation. One more with Switzer real quick. Both of these gentlemen are much more competitive and loud than Coach Osborne. He's sort of a laid back guy, but he knows the rules better than anybody in football. But back to Switzer, he lines up for an extra point. He's going to try a trick extra point. He's going to try to score 2 points. And he has a false start. And then he has another false start. And another false start, 3 in a row. So now I'm backing him up with 5 yards. I'm looking his direction, and he's coming at me on the field. He's closer outside the numbers. As I'm walking towards him, I throw my flag. Walk over. I said, what's the conversation? He said, how can you do this? I said, what do you mean? He said, there's got to be more to this game than false starts. And I said, well, actually there is. There's a 15-yard penalty that you got. And so you're kicking from a 48. And he said, well, I'll tell you right now, you're never coming back here to work another game. Yeah, coach. So they kick, and they actually make the extra point. Then a week later, I get a letter from him of apology. And I probably had Oklahoma 10 more times in football. But the funny part about it is he retired, and I was still working at Oklahoma, but I never rubbed it in that way to him. But those are the kinds of dialogues we have with coaches, and we're important.
Wonderful, wonderful stories. Great to reminisce about those times. Let's talk about your book. Why did you write the book, and how do you hope it helps in sports officiating and so forth, and people in general in life?
Okay, and these are the most important part for me to get across to you, plus an opportunity to give a little bit more about my background. But I started out with 25 years as a referee in the Big 8 and Big 12. And every pregame I had, over 250 of them, I used this technique that I'm going to show you about using quotations with the crew.
Mhm.
And it was endorsed by all the supervisors, all the observers, and my crews. It was a powerful way, a powerful message. And the opportunity to do this is really based on three things. First of all, the book has 360 pages, 600 quotations, and they're all original. About 20% of them are humor, 20% leadership, and the other 60% are all about what the good officials do. And it's what's so interesting about this book, Logan, is it's not a rule book. It's like, and you mentioned part of it in the intro too. It's like the glue between the pages of a rule book, like reading between the lines of the rule book, and at times even thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
The difference between an average official and a good official is based upon their knowledge of rules, but also what they do on the field with what they have at the right time to get a correct call. And those things are those are in the rule book. The rule book will tell you what you're supposed to do, but when the lights are on, or there's 80,000 people, you have to do it at the right time. And there's a lot of power in that. The book is recreational. You can just, since there's no beginning, no middle, or no end, you just go to a page and you can read it. If you're restructuring or reloading your career, very inspirational. And the thing about quotes that I find so interesting is that you use your own interpretation. Like this book is based upon your philosophy and the psychology and your personality, your courage and character. And those things come out in a quote that's quite different than anything else, and nothing like that you see in the rule book. So quickly, before I describe how I use it, I'll say to you, an official would be given a quotation from the referee. The referee might say, bring your own, or you could save a lot of time if you get this 365-page book and just use a few. That's what I did. I would just put 20 out on a piece of paper and say, choose one and talk about it at our pregame. That is very, very powerful to do. And it allows them to, the best way to describe it is it's like taking a crutch. The idea is, this is what I'm going to work on today. And I want you to know I had a little trouble with it a week ago, and this is my focus. And it gives them a crutch to talk with this quotation, which I'll read to you in a minute as a sample of how this thing really works. And let's see. Now, I guess is the best time for me to read a few. This just takes 3 minutes, but I want to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to take not that book. This is my book right here. I'm going to give you 10 examples right from the book of what a referee could use, or you, as an individual official, just pick one and see how it applies to you. The best referees have the ability to avoid the impulse to feel the need to dominate a crew. Now, for crews, this is really important, and particularly then for the referee to not get caught in the situation of being a dictator or a dominating referee. They're not very effective at all. I'm going to just turn 10 different pages up front. So the book's full of this kind of material. Humor. Coaches can be nice guys out of season, but when you put on your stripes on game day, you get the kind of greetings from them that a corpse would give an undertaker. Humor. Good official. Good officials don't fight problems. They solve problems. Leader. For the referee in a heated discussion with a crew over controversial situations, it's better to understand a little than to misunderstand a lot.
Yeah.
That's a good topic for a lot of officials. Leader. The best solution to some problems on the field that can't be solved is to simply manage them. And that's a mistake a lot of people make. There are some things you can't really manage, or you can't really decide on the field, but the best you can do is get through it and move forward and get on with the game. Good officials, better not to see a play than to see it wrong. It's better not to see the play than to see it wrong. Powerful.
Yeah.
Good officiating represents an interesting dilemma because it's sometimes possible to be right at the wrong time. That's common sense. That's for a lot of times. That's a level beyond the normal official.
Yeah.
Good official, the best gift you can give another crew member is a good example.
Yeah.
Leadership. Changing talent to ability is the key to the referee successfully making a good crew a great crew. A couple more. Leadership, good crews solve problems and make decisions. Poor crews avoid action. Good official, don't justify a mistake, but learn from it. And I think I'll just stop with that one because that's the difference between improving and going backwards or just staying the same. You have to learn from your mistakes.
Absolutely. Lots of great lessons in there for sports, a lot of great lessons in there for life. The book is wonderful, folks. John, we're out of time, unfortunately, but let's remind the folks at home the name of the book. The name of the book is Between the Stripes, a rule book guide of what good officials do to become better. It is a powerful and unique guide that uses the world of sports officiating as a framework for developing a personalized and successful leadership style in any profession. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Matt. I would just like to say that of
Sure.
all the things I've done in officiating, I put this one at the top. It's something if you'll just take the time to use the quote or use it as a leader or a crew member, it'll make you a better official.
Absolutely. The best gift you can give your crew is a good example, and you'll find lots of good examples of that type of wisdom and philosophy contained within the pages of this book. Doctor, thanks again for joining us. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.